So the showrunner, Lauren Hissrich, for Netflix The Witcher TV series, recently responded to the controversy around season 1 and some things that fans feel she didn't do right. Strap yourself in, it's gonna be a fun ride. This is obviously going to contain spoilers for season 1 of The Witcher on Netflix, so if you have not seen that, I did a review on it. I have other videos coming out about the first season, doing lots of lore and so forth, but I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. It's a really good season. So first, Lauren, the showrunner of The Witcher on Netflix, said, yeah, I do a lot of wrong. With people saying, we don't like how you did this, we don't like how you did that, we don't like that you made this character look like this person over here. So first, I just want to read what Lauren said about her being a showrunner. I can't speak for other showrunners, but I do a lot of wrong. I think I do a lot of right too, but some jobs you have to learn on your feet, and this is one of them. This is also one done on a giant fucking stage with a giant fucking audience, so that's been something for me to adjust to. I think my goal is to keep writing the best show I know how, while simultaneously paying attention to what is resonating with fans and what isn't. I don't want to lose myself, and I don't want to lose them. So if you're not familiar with Lauren, she's very interactive with fans. She actually tweets to fans on her personal Twitter. She does Ask Me Anythings on Reddit. She's listening to people, and I swear I'm not trying to drag Game of Thrones into this. I say it every time I talk about The Witcher, and then I fucking just do it. The showrunners for Game of Thrones kind of did a fuck you, la la la, we're the geniuses, we know what we're doing. Where Lauren's more taking the approach of, I'm gonna do things that I feel are right and great for the show, but at the same time, I want to have an open dialogue with fans. I want to hear your concerns. I want to know what you're thinking so that I can take that information and decide, do I want to adjust the show based on that or not? And here's something I was taught when I was younger, and then I've just been mocked relentlessly for. I was always told it's the mark of an intelligent mind to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. So the fact that she's listening, but she's not doing pure fan service. She's not going, okay, a majority of you guys like this, so I'm gonna change everything. She's listening, she's entertaining the idea, and she's deciding whether she wants to accept it or not. And to me, I think that takes a very secure, humble person, and it makes me more hopeful for the Witcher TV series going forward, personally. And I already think the season 1 was just rock my fucking socks, so. And I am talking about in another video, but she did get called out for kind of stepping on Polish culture. If you don't know the history of the books, it's from a Polish author. They were originally penned in Polish. They were translated to other languages after that. And a lot of it is Polish heritage, culture, folklore, and all of that. And there's been some criticism towards the Netflix TV series that they kind of brushed away some Polish culture in order to have more diversity and be more inclusive. And Lauren has promised we're going to get more Polish roots in season 2 and beyond. If you're still concerned about the Polish, they actually do have people that have read our Polish and read the original writings, and they're working closely with those people in order to bring more Polish heritage and culture, like in the books, to the show. Unfortunately, Lauren doesn't read Polish, and she has never read the books in Polish, and you know, if you have Polish friends who speak Polish who then fucking deny it when you're doing a podcast, you know that a lot is lost between the Polish and English translation. And I just want you to brace yourself, because this was a very long response by Lauren about diversity and even how they made the different races look in season 1. So I'm going to read it and then talk about it, but I think it's really important to hear her whole response so you really get the gist of where she's coming from. The discussions about race in the writer's room with the producers and with the author himself were long and varied. We talked about the history of the conjunction of the spears. Are all humans out in the ether the same color? Did the conjunction drop certain races in certain areas? We talked about the continent being a huge place. Are we to believe that people don't migrate? And we talked about how racism was presented in the books. Like all readers, we always come down on the side that racism in the books is represented by speciesism. Humans versus elves versus dwarves versus gnomes versus halflings versus monsters and so forth. It's not about skin color at all. You don't notice skin color when you're instead looking at the shape of ears, or the size of torsos, or the length of teeth. Furthermore, in the books, there are a few mentions of skin color, usually pale or wind-chapped. Andre very specifically didn't add in many details of skin color. He told me himself. Readers generally make assumptions. Typically, unless otherwise noted, believe characters to be the same color as themselves. That said, the general assumption is that everyone in The Witcher is the same color, which is why all the focus is on species. Because it's 2020 and because the real world is a very big and diverse place, we made a different assumption on the show, that people don't pay attention to skin color, not because they're all the same color, but because the bigger differences are about species, not skin. If you went to a local supermarket and there were people with horns and tails, do you really think you'd be paying attention to skin? Maybe the answer is yes. Clearly it is for some people. But it wasn't for us, the writers and the producers. And I swear I'm not constantly just plugging myself on my own channel, but I did an intro to the Witcher world, and I didn't realize the assumption was that everyone was white, and that's why there was no fighting amongst the humans, because there is fighting amongst the humans, and there's fighting between the races. Everyone's prejudiced for some fucking reason. It's that world, much like our own. Everyone has a problem with everyone for fucking everything. Is it your profession? Is it your race? Is it because you come from this area? I mean, hell, you have a different accent in their world, and we don't want you in here. We get the fuck out. She did talk about checks and balances for her and how that she's just not completely running wild. So on that, Lauren said, "The checks and balances system includes me, the executives at Netflix, and the producers, who all offer notes on every part of the process, outline, script, and cuts. What happens between seasons is that we look at all the episodes and discuss internally what worked and what didn't. When we thought we needed exposition, for instance, but turns out that it came across clunky. And then we course correct. We're all professionals. There's no heartbreak. We constantly want to improve." Which again goes back to me saying what I find really refreshing about her as a showrunner is that she does seem very grounded and non-egotistical and very open to people putting in their bits and pieces without letting it consume her. And I think we're actually pretty lucky, even with the mistakes she has made, that she's the showrunner for this series. And I think that's what's going to make the Witcher Netflix series just rise to the top. She addressed criticism about the time jumps in the first season. I know for a lot of you guys, when I talked about the review and I thought that it all made sense, a lot of you said, no, it didn't. We did not like the 3 different time periods and the jumping around. It was very confusing. And she did address that when asked, hey, why didn't you, let's say, use Dandelion or Jaskier? Why didn't you use him as a narrator? Because there's the theory that Jaskier is the one narrating all the books. So on that, she responded, "There's a theory that the Witcher books are all told by our narrator, Jaskier. And it's an interesting thought, and we do try to include his commentary on Geralt's adventures via his songs. But we purposely didn't want someone constantly explaining what we're about to see and why. It was clearly a controversial choice." Which honestly, it was. Some of the most backlash I have seen for the first season were the time jumps, the timelines, because it wasn't apparent, I guess, until the middle of the season that all of this wasn't happening at the same time, and it confused a lot of people. So I think maybe that's why Lauren has said coming forward, season 2 is going to be more linear because all the characters have converged, and you're going to see them all going. And maybe we'll have a flashback or two, but it's not going to be as confusing going forward, is basically what she's saying. Oh, and if you're worried about Jaskier not having his famous hat, they tried to put a hat on the actor and it didn't look good, and she said they are open to trying giving him his fancy little hat, but it might not work just because if it looks goofy on the actor, you know, why would that person in universe wear it and do it? So they're trying to get the fucking hat. Cross your fingers. Here's a big controversy. Nilfgaard. If you read the books, you know that it's a very advanced, sophisticated empire. They aren't religious zealots, but they were made to be that way in the show, and Lauren addressed a lot of the controversy. She didn't touch on the armor because she's done that so many times before. Her thing is she wanted to show while they were still growing as a powerful force, and maybe they're all hodgepodge together, but they're going to rework the armor. So if you hate the armor on the Nilfgaardians, it's okay. They're gonna fix it. But she did address how she made them seem a lot less sophisticated in season 1. So here was her reply to that. Interesting about Nilfgaard. Yes, we felt like we needed to set up a bad guy in season 1, but it's our hope that we've added enough layers that audience think, wait, but they don't seem insane. So what do they see in Nilfgaard? Maybe there's more there than meets the eye. Perhaps we didn't go far enough in season 1 to see more behind Nilfgaard's curtain, but it will definitely be explored more thoroughly in season 2. She also addressed in other interviews how they are going to not make the Nilfgaardians seem so one-note, mustache-twisting bad guys, because there's a lot more to them, so I'm interested to see how they do that going forward, because they really did set up, oh, these are just fucking religious zealots, holy shit. Next criticism she dealt with, how she portrayed Geralt. So we know in the books, Geralt is a very dry-witted person, and he's not afraid to speak his mind. He's very passive. He's not gonna get in the middle of political scheming, but man, him running his mouth, I said what I missed when I did the breakdown for, what was that episode called? But anyways, it was from the short story Question of Price with Dooney or Dunny, depending on whether you say it how they do in the books or how they say it in the show. It's gonna be interesting to see the differences in how they pronounce names, and I feel like we're gonna see the Game of Thrones fights all over again, which are just so fucking delightful. But anyways, oh my gosh, the verbal sparring between Calanthe and Geralt is amazing in the short story. It's absolutely amazing. You just see these two whip-smart, just people coming at each other, and I love it. So on cutting Geralt's lines, because Lauren did get a lot of criticism for, Geralt is very eloquent. He talks a lot, so having him just go, and fuck, just didn't seem as much in character for him. So she addressed that, saying, Geralt is incredibly talkative in the books. It worked a lot of the time for me, but I do remember reading Voice of Reason and thinking, at some point, wouldn't Iola ignore her vow of silence and tell him to stop talking so much? In the first episode, Geralt did speak a lot. We ended up cutting a lot of his dialogue because once we had it on its feet, it didn't feel real, or how a person would actually talk. Henry and I worked intensely together to make sure he seems incredibly smart, still has his dry wit, and can still hold his own with Calanthe and others. But also like he seems like a person who doesn't always want to be a part of the conversation or to let others into his every thought. Still though, the verbal sparring between Calanthe and Geralt, solid gold in that short story. Question of Price, just go read it. Amazing. So specifically she answered, okay, why did you have the cliffhanger ending with Ciri going, who's Yennefer, instead of the more emotional talking that happens between Ciri and Geralt? Not sure if you saw it on Twitter, but the scene from the books was filmed almost word for word. Even the episode's title, Much More, came from that scene. But in the editing room, it felt like it was too on the nose. Two people saying everything to each other, rather than it being conveyed through their eyes or body language. That's what happens when you take literature and suddenly ask real people to act it out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it feels like too much. I think everyone has a very different reaction to the scene. It seems about 50% of people miss the book ending, and 50% of the people feel like it would have been cliche and cheesy. Even though I love the book ending, I came down in the latter camp, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna be talking more Witcher news, more Witcher lore, more Witcher in general. Like, subscribe, and come back for more videos.